Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a long-time progressive organiser, and I've been interested in making YouTube videos as of late. This particular video is just something I wanted to make as an addendum to the last one I did. So from here on out, I'll assume everyone watching it will already know the story here. But, just in case, to refresh everyone's memory, I've been making videos about how to spot reactionary dog whistles online. A streamer named Alec Gunter made a video about me doing that, in which he calls me an asshole who's wrong to do it. I just made a video responding specifically to his, which I'll also link at the top of the description, and now it looks like we're another layer of back and forth deep into this, because Mr. Gunter went and just released another video in which, frankly, he fails to understand anything that's been said to him. I don't want to go on this forever, but I do think there are a few other little things that are worth quickly mentioning. And never let it be said I won't stand by my assertions either. Having now seen Gunter's first video about me, and his counter-response, I'm starting to think the issue here isn't just that he has a bad opinion on the topic that he can't help but present poorly. Alec Gunter might just genuinely be very dumb. I don't want to go step by step through everything he said in his second video, mostly just because there's nothing good in there anyway, but also because he drags everything out 3 or 4 times longer than it really needs to be, so I'll try to keep this brief. Gunter, you're too obstinate for your own good. Frankly, since you insisted on doing a reaction video, it really should have just been you silently watching the first 3 minutes of me extensively explaining the Friends dog whistle we discussed previously, at which point you turned to the camera to say you get it now, that you were wrong about it, and how you thought it wasn't a dog whistle. You've got too much of this low-tier debate bro mindset, to the extent I'm still not convinced you actually understand what the function of a dog whistle is. You seem to think it's something where a conservative just makes up a new offensive meaning for a word just to trick liberals into saying it, or when an alt-right guy uses a fraction or something to try and argue with a liberal about minority crime rates. Here's a clip.
Yeah, so when somebody says 1350, they are pointing out what they consider a fact, and even if you take it as a fact, the fact is 13% of the population, black people, make up 50% of the crime, right? That's the dog whistle. The dog whistle, when you say Western society, is white nations, okay? You can't say white countries, so what do you say? You say the West, okay? That's not inherently racist, but it is nonetheless a dog whistle that far-right ethno-nationalists love to use to show their ideas, to pump their ideas out to people who are ready to take the bait, you know what I mean?
Once again, a dog whistle isn't something an alt-righter just goes around saying directly to liberals. That's not what they are. The idea is that one alt-right person will use particular words or a phrase in a specific context that surreptitiously signals their beliefs to other alt-right people. Reactionaries aren't trying to trick you into posting the word friends or the OK hand sign or a frog meme or anything like it. And even if they were, why would you think the correct move then would be to reclaim those words and post them more? It's not a game of who gets what slang terms. The far right uses terms like friends specifically because it was being used as just innocuous cutesy internet slang for years and years beforehand. Alec Gunter hears the word is a dog whistle. He then believes that to mean that it's a racist term, as in literally, that must be what you call someone if you want to be racist towards them. He evidently cannot comprehend the notion that people can use words duplicitously, and that you can usually spot it when they do if you know what you're looking for and pay attention to the context it's used in. That's all that really needs to be said. Hopefully he gets it this time. But, while I've got the camera on and have the footage downloaded, I just wanted to point out a pattern of his I picked up on. Alec Gunter doesn't actually string coherent thoughts together. I'm not saying that just to be mean, it's just that every other thing he says is a complete non sequitur. he cannot reliably follow along with simple spoken words, understand them, and respond with something relevant. Like when I pointed out that he's a little too high and mighty about coalition building, despite his not actually being a political organizer. Gunter just goes all sullen looking and pulls up footage of another video of his and goes, "Look, I do a lot more coalition building than most people." But going to a Matt Walsh convention to get B-roll footage for your Epic Debatones compilation is not coalition building. More and more, I'm starting to think Gunter just plumb doesn't know what real-world political organising is. Because it's not just any time you leave your apartment to film a YouTube video. It's like talking to a restless but really slow child. They don't understand what your words mean, but they're still going to have an emotive response. Like again, a little bit further on, I make a comment about Gunter to the effect of, "Do we need another wannabe Vouch clone on this website?" Referring to a big left-wing streamer that you've almost certainly heard of, who Gunter is clearly trying to ape the video style of. Alec really shoots out of his chair when he hears this. Take a look. Do we really need another one of these dime-a-dozen wannabe Vouch clones?
Yes! Yes, there it is, boys! He's a Vouch hater! Yes! Every time! Every time! We got it, boys. Let's go.
The one is already more than plenty.
VDS is strong and kicking.
Do you want to bring to the
Vouch bad! Vouch bad!
I don't know what he thinks he heard, because he starts yelling as if anything I've said redounds to his argument here. For what it's worth, I'm personally not the hugest Vouch fan. Vouch is alright, and I am sympathetic to the argument that, broadly speaking, if you had a confident and slick enough guy going through current events and left-wing talking points online like Vouch does, you could get people interested in progressive politics who wouldn't otherwise be. And that's a good thing. I'm not a huge fan, simply because I don't watch him myself, because I don't watch a whole lot of online media at all. But the idea of what he does, I would say, is basically good. And if you're going to make the case that the general concept is good, might as well point to someone who's done very successfully for themselves with the format like Vouch has. Not a simpleton like Alec Gunter, who's just trying to ape the same videographic style while being nowhere near as good or as effective at it. This is, however, all completely incidental to what I actually said in the footage that Gunter gets all riled up about, though. Let's just see it one more time. Do we really need another one of these dime-a-dozen wannabe Vouch clones?
Yes! Yes, there it is, boys! He's a Vouch hater! Yes! Every time! Every time!
He's seemingly past what I've said as meaning that he's bad because he's emulating Vouch and because there's something inherently bad about that format itself. In actuality, I disparaged him for trying to copy the format in such a shoddy way, and I stand entirely by the assertion that we don't need Alec Gunter trying to set himself up as a Vouch knockoff, especially not when all he's got to bring to the fore is the mewling opinions of just another straight cis white schlub, and one with nothing novel or insightful to say at that. But because anything Gunter has told to him seemingly just goes in one ear and out the other, all he heard was me saying the word Vouch in a critical tone, and he must have thought I was taking potshots at the guy he is clearly a really big fan of if he's trying this hard to be him. Based on what we see here, Gunter is such a committed fan of Vouch's, in fact, that if he so much as thinks I said a bad word about him, then I must be delegitimizing everything else I have to say. It really is just stuff like this I have a problem with. The man is really dumb, and simply doesn't understand what is being said to him. It's not an endearing combination. One more example that stands out to me, where Gunter really drops the ball. Towards the end of the video, I'm wrapping up and letting anyone watching know that if they'd like to hear more about obscure reactionary dog whistles and how to spot them, There was a whole playlist of videos of mine linked in the description. While I was doing that, I give two specific examples of dog whistles I've covered: the clapperboard emoji and the alt-right not having had breakfast yesterday joke. Here's a clip, though I have had to edit out the minute-long mid-sentence rant Gunter does about my appearance here for the sake of keeping it relevant.
I'll
But
piss on it.
if you, Alec, or anyone else watching this, would like to learn about all sorts of dog whistles and how to spot them, I've got just the playlist of videos for you at the top
As the
of
soy
the
jack look, I
description.
should ban you.
There's all sorts of newer, obscure stuff in there that I'm sure you don't already know about.
Once again,
Like the clapperboard emoji, or why racists like to joke about people not having had breakfast yesterday.
what?
But,
Wait, what?
and literally as soon as I finished saying, explicitly, that you can find out what these are if you watch the videos linked in the description, Gunter starts to ham it up, complaining that he doesn't know how to find information on these sorts of things online. Like he wasn't just provided a direct link to something that would explain it to him.
Oh, what happened? I thought it was so easy to Google this stuff. That's interesting. See, I just thought that it was like super easy to Google this stuff and figure out how the far right ethno nationalists, or friends as he calls it, like to use these things. But you know, I'm starting to see that maybe that's not the case. Also, I want to point out, if it is easy to Google this stuff, why the fuck are you making videos about it? Why don't I just Google it?
Again, right here in this very video, he's complaining that info about dog whistles is hard to find. If only then that someone was making short, simple videos explaining them to people. People like Gunter might have been able to find out what, say, the clapperboard emoji or the yesterday's breakfast thing means if someone made those videos. Then he goes on to rant about how he believes I, or I guess anyone else, shouldn't be making content that explains dog whistles to people, because he thinks that if it was important, it would already be on the internet somewhere. Gunter's talking here as if he thinks that everything currently online just appeared there magically one day. That's not how it works. Someone needs to have made it for it to be up there. I, for one, had a thought one day that there wasn't anywhere online that catalogued reactionary dog whistles well enough, especially not the more recent ones. So, I started work making that resource myself. That's just the attitude I have towards noticing a problem and then putting in some effort to try and rectify it. In either case, having now gone through these two videos of Gunter's, my only takeaway is just that he's incredibly fucking dumb. My working theory is that he's just another wannabe e-celeb that aspires to a streaming career, who's picked up a few left-wing talking points to repeat because that's what's been successful online the last few years. Credit where credit's due, he has learned some of the terminology. For instance, he throws liberal around quite liberally, presumably because he's heard the term used disparagingly before in lefty media circles.
He comes off like a shrill, shrieking liberal. It's too liberal for me. It's too libby. Gross.
Although, I don't actually think he knows why leftists call people libs so much, and I don't think he understands that my organising, for instance, and everything I say online, is informed predominantly by anarchist organising principles. Gunter knowing anything about political philosophy beyond maybe his own America-centric Dem-soc electoralism is unlikely, shall we say. But again, someone's taught him about pronouns, apparently. And he's even got an extra-large trans colours heart shirt on in his response video to show just how big of an ally he is. Although, if this was How to Be an Ally School, we would have to dock Alec's grade a little for hearing someone introduce themselves as Card and then so confidently assuming they would use he/him pronouns. That being said, I'm not really offended because I don't care what this dullard thinks. If anything, I'm glad he's opened up our little back and forth to a bit of playful jabbing here and there. like when he says I look like a serial killer, or starts making snide comments about how I face the camera. Because it means I get to make some comments back even-handedly. Like, I think Alec Gunter comes across like a whiny bitch who can't concede when he's wrong. He has the ability to follow along with a topic of a goldfish, and he has absolutely no clue what real-world political organizing entails. Maybe, if he were smarter, he'd have watched my videos in advance, so he doesn't need to try and think of something in real time. Even if he didn't want to acknowledge he's wrong about the Dogwhistles thing specifically, he could have still tried to work out a half-decent argument for what he's trying to say. As it stands, his videos are just one instance of him soyly belching his knee-jerk reaction back to the screen after another. Alec has no ability to understand what has just been said to him, or to anticipate what is about to be said to him. Like here, my favourite part of his whole reaction stream. He plays the part where I call him out on the hypocrisy of trashing anyone else's background and throw some trash talk his way in kind. Then he pauses to say he doesn't get it. If you are more familiar with reactionary online terminology, you might know this all forms an archetype that a lot of people call the soy new male bugman.
What? Huh? How does he know that? What circles is he hanging out in? I don't know any of that.
Only for the pre-recorded video he's watching to next predict correctly that he won't have gotten it. Thankfully, though, you're pretty ignorant about this kind of stuff, so you won't know it's meant to be derogatory. I just love the comic timing of it all. He's such a schmuck. And if you're making a video you know will be reacted to, almost sentence by sentence, and by someone on Alex's level, you can work little things like that into the script. He's a steer that walks upright, and you can easily lead him around by the nose. It also kind of hammers home my point that Gunter isn't in a position to be talking about dog whistles and right-wing terminology at all. We're supposed to believe that this guy has something to say worth listening to on the topic of spotting reactionary phrases, and he doesn't know what soy means in 2024. It just doesn't add up, does it? I'll give you a hint, buddy. It's the look, attitude, and style of presentation you perfectly embody. And again, you have the gall to ever call anyone else a lefty stereotype when you're evidently this ignorant about how you come across? I've decided to do the 2 response videos after Mr. Gunter started dragging out his dumb appraisal of me. I know he'll see this. He may or may not show himself reading it on camera, but he'll definitely watch it. And all I have to say to him is, I'm not doing another one on it. I'm completely indifferent to whether or not he responds again himself. Because he's such a dunce, there's nothing of value in his videos to really contend with. This one might end up coming out a few days later than I would otherwise have liked. Because here in Australia, it's the national holiday the day after I'm writing the script for this, and I've been a bit busy as of late doing my part to organise and coordinate one of the biggest anti-Australia Day rallies us lefties over here are throwing. But either way, I'm not giving him another thought from here on out. But in their own due time, the Dogwhistles videos will return, and I'll still be in the right to make them. If you're a regular viewer of mine who's made it this far, thanks for sticking in there. See you again early March. Otherwise, goodbye for now, and have a lovely day.